And let me share my screen. Okay. So thank you everyone for being here. I appreciate your time. Today we have a very busy schedule with STA PD Day and some other events going on. So I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. This session 3 for our LCAP engagement is going to focus on our mid-year update and our funding. And this is all in the development support of our 24-27 3-year LCAP. And again, this is a recorded presentation. And I'm going to turn the mic over to our superintendent, Dr. Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah, thanks so much. So we're excited to have everybody who is here at the moment, and then also who's going to be viewing this recording. I encourage everyone to be engaged with the LCAP. So as Ms. Ashworth said, this is a unique opportunity for all school districts to look at refreshing their LCAP. But also there is an element of accountability now in the new template. And so we really need to be consistently drilling down on our key performance indicators, our KPIs, looking at data like we're going to today and saying, is what we're doing working, right? So we have so many marvelous things that are happening within Stockton Unified. And how do we actually move that through, connect the dots, so to speak, so that it's having a direct and significant impact on our students. And so this screenshot that you see is in regards to the state of the district. Yesterday, and in my message today to staff, we're actually going to be doing an update. As I promised that we would. We released the state of the district on October 18th, and I said 3 months from that date that we would do an update in order to have public accountability. And so we are going to be, we released yesterday, it's on the website, on our banners, but today in my message to staff, I'm going to be talking about these 44 priority recommendations. Oh, there you go. 44 priority recommendations. It's a way we decided, instead of doing just a one-sheeter that is a stagnant document, since this is going to morph over time, we decided to do a website which really allows people to drill into the parts that they feel are important. But I just want to note the numbers that are down at the bottom, right? So just a refresh, and I would say this about LCAP as well, is the 44 priority recommendations so the items that we're going to hit right off the bat are all from the listening sessions and the town halls that we did. So I did 21, and Ms. Ashworth was at almost each and every one of them, scribing for me. And then Dr. Jason Murphy, he codified everything for me. And what we did is we took exactly what people said during those 21 listening sessions and town halls, and we developed the 44 priority recommendations. So each and every one of them came from people like you that came to sessions and either filled out surveys or actually engaged with the activities. 34 of those are going to be done before June 2024. And 10 of them are what we call level 4 complexity, which means that they are ongoing, that they're not something that you just check off and can move on, but they're something that you continue to grow at. And so such things as high expectations, equity and access are a few examples of some of our level 4 areas. And I don't do this alone. I do have a few that are just my office, but there are 11 departments. So pretty much everyone probably that's on this call. And then also 11 departments throughout the district, and they're department/division. So they're large groups of people, hundreds of people who every day are helping to support the implementation and the accomplishment of these 44 priority recommendations. So it is now on our website, but as it shows, you can go to www.allofussusd.net and see it. And I chose that saying, so we still are joy, trust, and belief is our theme for this year, but I do believe that just as with the LCAP, it will take all of us. It's not going to just take Ms. Ashworth, Dr. Ramirez, myself, people on this call right now. It is going to take all of us to accomplish what we set out for children, which is to change their lives and allow them to have the futures that they deserve. So thank you for being here or watching this recording.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. All right, so our agenda for the focus of our mid-year update and funding engagement session will include a summary of our 23-24 engagement. We will also look at and recap our guiding principles between the LCAP and SUSD. We'll also have an opportunity to briefly mention our prior engagement sessions, so the topics that we talked during that period of time. We are focusing on opportunities to build trust through authentic engagement. Authentic is the key, and I do have a wonderful announcement moving forward into this, this topic session. And then moving forward, we have our mid-year update, and then a funding overview, and then the invite for our next engagement session. So our LCAP engagement sessions, this is our third session in the series, and we've had two previous. This one, again, I've mentioned, is focusing on our LCAP mid-year update and funding. All of these engagement sessions will lead to the development of our draft 24-27 LCAP. We'll then be able to take this information and present it in a public forum and allow for feedback on that draft. And then looking for adoption by our board in the June month. So our LCAP guiding principles, both for SUSD and LCAP, and the end result is we're looking to improve our student outcomes. And in order to do so, there's transparency that we need to focus on. We also need to ensure that there is equity. And we also are able to provide those supports through ensuring that our lowest level of decision-making is at the district. And for this year's theme, I am not going to play the video because we have that played and you can view it on YouTube by following this link. But I do want to recognize that this year's theme of joy, trust, and belief, this is the support and of our pillars of success for SUSD. The takeaway that I have had that I am continuing throughout these engagement sessions is that it takes one interaction, one decision, and one day at a time. So that one interaction can make that change for that student, for that family, or for the employee. So moving forward, I'm going to give some time for us to think about this. We just started 2024 calendar year. And with that, sometimes we have a renewed sense of feeling of commitment. And so I wanted to get some feedback from you as to what your thoughts are for your, as being an educational partner, of what your resolution or commitment that you are making or reaffirming to support your students' education. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I would like for you to post your comments in the chat box, or you're welcome to raise your hand and we will allow for you to provide that information to all of us. All right, so I have to admit, I forgot to set my timer, so I think it's been about 2 minutes. So what I will move forward with is just going ahead and reading some of our comments that we have in our chat box. So Barbara has posted that students' needs come first. And then Dr. Rodriguez posted to continue to make student-centered decisions based on our belief in equity and access to a world-class education. Stephanie has been able to post working on moving the needle for compliant IEPs and laying out an education plan for our students with disabilities. And Jessica Griffin Brown, she has posted, I reaffirm my commitment this year to make students and their families the priority and give space for their concerns to be heard and addressed. And one last, I will read out Monique, who is one of our parents and PAC members. Her post is, my commitment would be ensuring my student and students like him are given the tools to be able to learn regardless of the intellectual disability label. So I love each and every one of your commitments and reaffirm of your commitments in making students centered and helping to support the direction and decisions that we are moving forward with the district. All right, so moving forward with our prior engagement sessions. The prior engagement session topics that we presented, our first engagement focused on LCAP requirements and components. So laying that foundation of what is required for an LCAP, the different components that are within the plan, and also supporting and clarifying who our educational partners are. The next engagement session that we had in December focused on our alignment between the LCAP and our school plan for student achievement, our SIPSAs, and then also connecting our 23-24 district priorities. So we have made a commitment with ensuring that our sessions, at least the virtual ones, are recorded so that you have the opportunity to review and look at the presentation and obtain the information at your leisure. So if you have missed a session, we do have them recorded. They are posted on our LCAP webpage, and you can locate that by accessing www.stocktonusd.net/page/16289. On this website, you'll also find valuable information when it comes to our past and also our current LCAPs, and then also our engagement survey, our LCAP survey, and data that we're looking at producing. This next portion of our presentation is focusing on our authentic engagement with our educational partners. So in the past, I have provided the information on a challenge paper that was provided by Carnegie Corporation of New York. And this quote really hit me to the heart, because it really is the focus is that when we ensure that our family engagement is authentic and we are incorporating our parents, our family, including our students, that those are predictors of our children's development, that they then feel empowered, they feel that they have somebody who is caring for them, and that leads to success in school and life. So ensuring that we are able to support our parents and our students, and then our other educational partners, the district has move forward with hiring our family engagement specialists. We have 4. They came on board at the beginning of this school year, or at the beginning of this calendar year on January 8th. So we have 3 family engagement specialists that are supporting our family resource centers. And she is Priscilla, we have Claudia, and we also have Jessica. And their focus will be a direct support to our parent advisory committees and ensuring that the communications and that they have the needs to be able to work with their members in order to further that engagement. We also have Rosie Fernandez, and she is within my department for state and federal programs. And she is going to be focusing on the LCAP and ensuring that our engagement sessions and our connections are reaching you as a participant. And then we're also looking at having that additional support for our school site councils. And that is a direct support with our school sites. So at times we have school sites that may have said, well, I can't get somebody to participate. Well, we now have somebody who is going to be able to help provide that support to the site that will help in furthering those connections and onboarding additional parents and community members and then students. So I believe we have several that are here. We have at least Rosie, and I think I've seen Jessica, that they are on our webinar right now. And so I know this is last minute, but would you like to give a quick shout out hello?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for...
Oh, I'm sorry, we're in the same room. All right. All right, that's not going to work. Sorry, technology. I have not mastered the audio. So they will actually be available at our future engagement sessions. We have also ensured that our family engagement specialists are attending the PAC meetings and also the officer meetings. So we've already had some interactions and introductions. But when you see them, please welcome them, tell them hi, and we look forward to providing additional supports. So engaging our educational partners, so I want to touch on some recent highlights. We have initiated and continued our direct communication to our bargaining unit leaders. So expanding out the information and invites of these LCAP engagement sessions. We have also ensured that our LCAP project and district leadership meetings have resumed. So those meetings are ongoing. That provides technical assistance and support and clarifying information to those project leads. We've also have been placed on the Student Advisory Committee agenda. So in February, I will be presenting and meeting our Student Advisory Committee that has been established by Dr. Rodriguez. And then we also have our focus meeting communication. So we're continuing to provide communication through social media and then also through email. But then as we are attending various different sessions or meetings, engaging those conversations and allowing for dialogue. I do see that I have a question from Monique. Go ahead, Monique. So
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Will you be attending and partnering with a community advisory committee or at the PEP meetings at all?
Yes, so we will be moving forward with focused meeting sessions with all of our parent advisory committees. That includes the CAC and PEP meetings. So those are communications, and we just are working on getting on those agendas.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Monique. So some final information that we are soliciting is the LCAP review and feedback, and we are doing this through our survey. So the survey was released in December. It is available in 6 languages. We have English, Spanish, Tagalog, Punjabi, Cambodian, and Hmong. And so each of these surveys, it's dual language. So not only is English in every single one, but then you have the specialized language. This allows for us to expand our inquiry and obtain the feedback from families that may not have been able to respond in the past. So I would like to say thank you to our research and accountability department for putting this survey together, and then our language development office for the support and the translations. Now, moving on to the heart of our presentation, this is focusing on our mid-year update. So as a requirement that has recently been added through legislation, the mid-year update is a way of us being able to check on the status and then provide that information out to our stakeholders or educational partners. It is an accompaniment to the LCAP. It's not something that we are approving. It's actually just an informational document. And that document is focused on providing that information to our educational partners on the district's implementation of the actions and strategies, where we are at, and that progression in meeting our metrics, and then also looking at the expenditure of funds. This allows for us to have that pulse check as we move forward in project management, and have those conversations with our project leads to ensure that we are meeting the needs of our students. This mid-year update is required to be presented at a regularly scheduled board meeting, and it also is required to be presented as the informational item no later than February 28th. So this will be added to one of our February meetings, and I look forward to sharing our updates with you. So the different components that we're looking at is the metrics. We have the expected annual measurable outcomes or objectives, and those are the state required metrics that we include within our LCAP. So we have the metric status reporting. It will look and you'll see as whether or not the metric is known or unknown, or if it's in progress. And then we will also be able to provide the data. Now, we are looking at a mid-year update, and there are metrics that do not have data available at this time. So an example is that we have in our LCAP a metric on iReady. We have a winter assessment, so that data may be available by the time we present to our board and also to you as the educational partners. However, we also have spring castback. Well, that data is not going to be available, so we will notate in the appropriate field that the data may not be available and the reason why. So I've given a couple of examples of what it may look like. And this way you can get an idea of the information that will be presented. The next is looking at our action outcomes and implementation. So this is the heart of what we do on a daily basis. So our project leads are implementing activities and projects, and our students are receiving those benefits. So that is, it could be science camp where we have students going out and participating in science and learning about the environment and whatever that focus is for that particular science topic. It also could be our supports that we provide in the classroom with our bilingual assistants, where they can support the instruction and provide those students with that direct support. So that's happening on a daily basis. And so this allows for us to communicate with our project leads, identify on the reporting status. Has the project started? Has it not started? Where in that level of progress are you at? And then is the project complete? Sometimes we do and are able to complete projects prior to the end of the school year. And then the project status. The project status will provide information on, just as a summary, this is not something that's going to be detailed in a full narrative, but just some talking points as to where we're at that explains and provides a visual for the status of each of the projects. Our project leads are currently in the process of compiling their information and the artifacts to support the implementation, and their deadline is January 31st to provide me the information. Once that information is given, then I'm able to synthesize that, look at it, glean the information that I need, and present it in the format for us to present to our board and educational partners. Then we have our expenditures. So the expenditures, we're looking at the same similar project expenditure reporting as started, in progress, or completed. Our survey that we have submitted to our project leads will allow for us to have a better understanding if there was any hiccups or where we might be able to help support expenditures. So that we can ensure a timely expenditure by the end of the school year. We also have this section that is focusing on what the expenditure status is. So we will be able to demonstrate what we had budgeted for that for that project, and then what our estimated actual is from that period of time. Now we are choosing for the period of time to be from July 1 through December 31st. So we're going to look at all of our financials based on that period of time and then have a picture snapshot of what those expenditures look like. Our business services staff and state and federal programs are reviewing these expenditures and will provide them within the document. So before I move on to our funding overview, were there any questions regarding the mid-year update? This is a new process. We had a little a sneak preview, I believe 2 years ago, but this is now legislation, it's now required. So do you have any comments or suggestions or additional inquiries that I might be able to address? All right, well, I don't see any. So feel free to reach out to our email. We have lcap@stocktonusd.net. If you have any questions that we might be able to help answer and provide any type of clarification. All right, so with our funding overview, this is where I get to geek out and because I do love numbers. I do love financials. And I will, this is my goal, is to try and break it down into a manner that is digestible and understanding. So I really would like your feedback on this because this is something that is complicated. There are, in the past, there have been questions about how funds are, how we receive our funds and so forth. But I would like to obtain your feedback and feel free to ask your questions. No question is a stupid question because it really does help to provide that clarification for not only you, but also for others. So I'm starting out first with our budget overview for parents. So yes, it might be kind of blurry for the visual, and that's okay because it's just a quick snapshot. Now, what you're seeing is this is the back end view that we at the district, we collect information and we enter it into the system. The system will then generate the beautiful pie charts and graphics and the narrative that you actually see within that LCAP. But I thought this was important because, at least with this graphic, because you can see that there's certain data points that we have to gather and collect. This information is a summary of high-level financial information. It's not here to provide detailed budget information and to go into the weeds. And where we obtain this high-level financial information is from the district's revenue and expenditures on Form 01, which is within our budget. So in the June timeframe, when we are presenting the LCAP and also the budget, because they go hand in hand, then that is part of that budget package. And so that's information that is gathered and presented and developed through our business services. And we take that information and relay it out to you as an educational partner. The other parts that we receive, and those are the ones in the green, is coming from our action tables from our LCAP. We also have a yellow section in here, and those are again from our LCAP action tables, and those are our prior year amounts that we collect. So there's a lot of different locations that we have to find information. I'm so thankful that we have resources like our San Joaquin County Office of Education and our state, California Department of Education, that provide us those linkages between all the different moving pieces to ensure that you have that information and it's understandable. Are there any questions regarding our budget overview for parents? All right, I will move on for our next part, and this is looking at our local control funding formula. So our local control funding formula replaced a very long standing archaic system. It was very compartmentalized in how those programs and funds were provided to school districts or local education agencies. And it replaced it with a formula-driven, more of an equitable approach in being able to provide supports and fund our districts. It also allowed for the elimination of restrictions. So in the past, we had what we called categorical programs, where this program, we gave you funding and it was only for this particular activity. We may not have been able, for SUSD, we may not have been able to have exhausted that type of funding because of a certain need where another site may have, or another LEA. So that is where, by lifting those restrictions from those categorical programs, it allows for us to have that flexibility to make those local decisions as to what is needed to support our kiddos. So it's been very helpful because we make those decisions based on the feedback and input and data that is generated through our LCAP engagement processes. The LCAP is effective local control funding formula came into effect in 2013. And with it coming into effect, it also created the LCAP. So the LCAP is the Local Control Accountability Plan, and that is the district's mechanism of informing our educational partners on how we are using those funds to improve our students' outcomes. It also allows for us to specifically identify how we are addressing the 8 state priorities with the LCAP. So the local control funding formula is based on different levels or tiers of funding. We have our base grant, and then we also have supplemental and concentration funds. And then we have some additional add-on amounts. I'm not going to talk about the add-on amounts. Those are just some givens. But I am going to focus on the base grant and supplemental concentration, which is the bulk of our funds that we receive and we are including within our LCAP. So all of that is what our total local control funding formula, known as LCFF, is for the district. So I do want to make a distinction. There are times when I have LCAP funding. LCAP is a plan. It is the plan that describes how you are going to spend those dollars. And those dollars are from the local control funding formula. So those are LCFF dollars and not LCAP dollars. So just as a clarification on that. So when we're talking, we can have that same understanding. Lots of information on this slide. Any questions so far on the local control funding formula? Oh, I love this. I am like knocking this out of the park. Yay. All right, so I also want to give a second view and a second look at this for what the funding formula is. So as I mentioned that we have our base grant. We also have some additional supplemental add-ons. So in this picture here, we can see that we have one student kiddo who is receiving a base grant. And then we can see that we have a bunch of kiddos in different groups, and that's what we call a grade span adjustment. So the state has said, because we have kiddos in K through 3, or we have kiddos in 4 through 6, 7 and 8, and then 9 through 12. There's different needs that they have. They may require more supports. They may require, maybe the intervention in the projects of support are costing more. So they have what they call a grade span adjustment. So we have our per student amount, and then from that we have a grade span adjustment. And then we have the next, which is our add-ons. And that's really focusing on our supplemental and concentration funds. And those funds are generated by our students who are low income, English learner, and foster youth. So in calculating SUSD's LCFF, how do we do this? Well, one, we are super lucky because we have San Joaquin County Office of Education who calculates this for us. It's a very convoluted, detailed, formula-driven allocation that they use in their spreadsheet, and they calculate it for us. They are providing our the SUSD with our preliminary LCFF amounts in the January-February timeframe, and then and that's based on the fact that the governor releases his budget. So I believe it was January 17th that the governor released and announced what the budget is going to look like. And so that starts to give us some ideas as to what to expect. Are we looking at decreases? Are we looking at increases? Are there new programs? Just different, many pieces that are moving in this process. So the County Office of Ed takes all of that under consideration and then identifies what a preliminary LCFF amount is for SUSD. We then move forward and we are basing all of our actions and activities within that period of time from January, February through March on that preliminary. Then the governor will have his May revise. May revise allows for him to review, take under consideration the changes, maybe take another look at what the budget or what the revenues are for the state and make adjustments. So that's why we call it a May revise. So after the May revise, which is around the mid part of May, first part of I think it's May 21st, I think this year, the County Office of Ed will then revise and adjust those numbers to finalize for our final LCAP. So super happy and thankful that we do have those supports and resources. Other LEAs are not that lucky. They have to figure it out themselves. So I think that helps us. And how we calculate our LCFF. So where do we get our numbers? You know, I mentioned we have our per student base and we're talking about grade span. I've mentioned unduplicated students. What does that mean? So our enrollment data is coming from CalPADS. CalPADS is the state's data system that, and it's the official data system. It's not like if we're looking at enrollment for SUSD, I'm not pulling it from our student information system. I'm actually pulling it from CalPADS. And that provides what the official enrollment is on a certain date. And they have an attendance day. And that's typically I think it's the first Tuesday of October. And then there's a second day that they look later on in the spring. Again, I will access CalPADS for the unduplicated pupil counts. And this is for us to ensure that we have and we're providing those supports to students who are generating those dollars. The per student base is really identified from California Department of Education along with the grade span. So those are identified based on what a COLA, which is a cost of living adjustment, or other types of adjustments that the state has identified. Any questions on this second view and lens for LCFF funding? All right. Oops. So in this, I have found a graphic. I love searching and trying to find visual images that will help to articulate the very complex discussions and formulas. And so I was able to find this hypothetical example. It's very simplistic. So this is really when we first started LCFF many years ago. We didn't have all the additional add-ons and so forth. Those have come in over the years. But in this particular hypothetical situation, we see that a district has 100 students. So they pulled their enrollment from CalPADS because that's the official enrollment data that we will be using. And then of those students, they identified that 75 of them were from the intended student group, which are known as unduplicated pupils. And then they were also identifying that the base amount is $500 per student. So we're looking at the base funds. How are we going to calculate that? So in this example, we have 100 students because those are our total enrollment of our kiddos, multiplied by the base allocation, and that totals 50,000. So base is 50,000. And then we move forward with the more complex supplemental and concentration. So looking at that 50,000, of that amount, we have a certain 20% that we provide, and then depending on where we're at, another 75%. And that gave us, for supplemental funds, 7,500. And then our concentration. So our concentration is identifying from our base allocation. We have 50% of what that base allocation, and then multiplied that by students who are over 55% of those of an increased concentration for low income. So with all of that, it's very, very simple, but it is still very complex. It identifies that the concentration would be $5,000. So all of that totals that for this particular sample, hypothetical example, there is $62,500 for total LCFF funding. That means that particular, in this example, you have $62,500 to identify projects and supports for the district. Now, what is base? What is supplemental concentration? And what is concentration 2.0? So I'm glad that you're thinking that, because I have been able to answer that. So with our base grant, in SUSD's LCAP, we have identified our base grant or core basic needs as general education teaching staffing, our clerical support for our school sites. We also have formulaic base staffing. We have centralized support staff, general supplies, utilities, and then facilities, and other basic operational functions. So it's really, what is it for us to be able to have SUSD running? What is it that we need to fund? So that's what our basic and core needs are. So let's think about this for your household. What are our basic and core needs for your household? Now, I have gone through and identified that for mine, that I have my housing. I also have a vehicle, and with the vehicle, I lumped in insurance. Definitely love my food. Thank goodness I don't really pay for childcare anymore, but I pay for childcare supports. So like for fun activities for school and so forth. I also have my utilities that I need to make sure that I pay, because I love my electricity. I love my gas so that I can have heat, and water, garbage, and of course I have to have my cell phone. My cell phone is my lifeline, internet, and I'm considering this as a basic need because not only do I have to work, but my daughter needs internet for her to be able to do her schoolwork. And then I have cable. So I'm looking at that as just my basic local station so I can kind of hear the weather here and there. So that's my idea of basic needs. So I want to now turn this over to you and ask you, what are your basic core needs? And then the second part of the question is that, are there any needs on this list from what you've identified that you have prioritized that you would like to share? So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to think about this. All right, again, I forgot to set my timer. So I would like to see if I can get any shout outs, if we can popcorn this, to see whether or not you would like to share what maybe some differences that you have. Ooh, that's a good one, health insurance. You're right. Okay, so then looking at that, that means that if I'm going back to that hypothetical example and I have $50,000 for my base needs, let's just say for a year. Totally unrealistic, I know. But if there's $50,000, I need to make sure that I've covered my base needs on that. So now we're going to move forward to supplemental concentration. So supplemental concentration funds, again, on all these slides, the county calculates all of this for us. They give us what our number is, and then we move forward with it. Supplemental is 20% of the adjusted base grant for students who are identified as foster youth, English learner, or low income. So those are, we understand that we have student needs and supports, and because we have students who are foster youth, English learner, and low income, we need a little bit more to be able to provide additional supports. They may not have those supports at home that other students in other districts may have. So they're giving us a little bit of extra funds to provide those supports. And then we have the concentration funds. And that is equal to 65% of the adjusted base grant for those students who are generating the funds. And that is foster youth, English learner, and low income. So this is where we have identified that, well, we have these students and we have these, because we have a larger percentage rate of students, that we have more of a concentration. So we need to have additional funds to provide those additional supports. So what does supplemental concentration grant funds look like? I consider this as to be wants or the gap filler. So for SUSD, we're looking at tutoring. We have our core instructional program. We're providing instruction in the classroom, but sometimes our kiddos need that little extra oomph and connection with the material. There's also intervention programs, bilingual supports, arts programming, field trips, science camp. So yes, we can provide instruction. I really don't remember all these field trips that some of our kiddos have. With me growing up, I just remember going to school. Well, it's nice to be able to have that hands-on experiential learning. And so field trips are a great supplemental support that we can provide to our kiddos. Also, student clubs, allowing them to have the exposure and understanding between the different, maybe there's a drone club or a chess club. And so they get to find their likes and what they may want to focus on or gain additional exposure. And then really, what does it help with the kiddos? The connection. Kiddos have connections with those advisors, and then they make connections with their fellow students. Technology. So this one is a little bit on the, we are a one-to-one district, so we consider that the core Chromebooks as being a base support, because we have already been identified as a one-to-one. This technology, we're looking at what's going above and beyond. Maybe it's the dot cams where my day, it was called an overhead projector. Nowadays, it is a dot cam and or document camera. And so that's where they're able to view that image and display it on a board. Maybe that's the smart board. So you see this big, huge TV in the classroom. Guess what? That is a hands-on technology support that the teacher is able to move around the classroom and help to provide and engage students. Looking at college and college visits and then other social emotional supports. So that's what we have currently in our LCAP. Now there's a lot more because of time and space. I've just highlighted several. For me, my want is luxury housing, a luxury car. I would love to have a McLaren or a Bugatti, but that's not really going to happen. I do like dining at restaurants, going to the movies. I do love my Disney Plus. I like camping because that gives a little bit of a exposure, personal environment. If you guys don't already know, I'm definitely a video gamer. So any of those extra money that I have laying around, I'll buy me some V-Bucks so I can play Fortnite. And then of course, you know, my salon treatments and student activities for my daughter. So I identify that as being prom. Those are my supplemental wants. Now, I could still live life if I don't have that, but this is always nice to have. So that's what I consider as supplemental wants. So looking at the interactive activity, what are your wants? And everybody has different priorities. And this is really what is allowing for us to have that exposure that my priorities may be a little bit different than someone else, and that's okay. And then are there any wants that are not listed on the list that you prioritize? So I'm going to give you a few, give you about a minute to be able to jot that down in the comments, and I'll share out. Okay, I can't wait that minute. Oh my goodness, these are some great things. All right, so golf clubs. Yes, I love golf. So thank you, Dax. Books. You know, I'm an Audible book person. So yes, I have my Audible subscription. So yeah, that is definitely something that's supplemental. Starbucks. Ooh, international travel. That's nice. And pet toys. Yes. I don't work for me. I work so that my dogs have a best life ever. So Susanna, I totally can relate to that. All right. So does this kind of help to understand? Ooh, water therapy for your son. It's not a need, but ooh, that's nice. Yeah, it is wonderful because you know what, that just being able to see the enjoyment and peace that your kiddo has when they are doing something that's fun and engaging. That is definitely to the heart.
Try to.
All right. So thank you so much for allowing me to be able to share with you the difference between base, which is a need, and supplemental concentration, which is a want. And when I say want, it doesn't mean that I'm devaluing the SUSD supplemental concentration activities. It's just a word that I was able to kind of provide as a visual for us. So now moving on to concentration grant 2.0, we're going on into the third year of this additional 15% add-on. So it was identified that there are sites who, or LEAs, that because of the concentration of low income, they need another bump up above with funding. And so they identified that instead of 50%, you're going to go up to 65% if you meet certain criteria. So with that criteria, that is where we're able to provide additional supports. Now, the state, although LCFF is supposed to be a local decision, right? they did provide some parameters around those funds. That additional 15% really needs to be dedicated to direct support for students. And we're looking at increasing the number of classified or certificated staff at the school sites. So it's not coming in from a district level. So that doesn't mean that I'm increasing my department or I'm increasing curriculum. Instead, we're looking at Adams Elementary, looking to see what type of additional direct supports are we going to be providing or expanding out. Now, one of the things that we were able to do at the very beginning of the year, because it wasn't that we hired a bunch of new employees, we were able to reevaluate what our base program was. And we actually moved some of our staff, like our bilingual assistants or SSTs, our school student technicians. We were able to move those from being base funded to supplemental concentration because they provide direct support. And so giving us the opportunity to be able to give that and demonstrate that connection. So on this slide, I also include the other positions. So we have bilingual assistants. What we ended up doing was reevaluating our bilingual assistants, and some of our sites had bilingual assistants that were funded from Title I. Then they were moved to be a part of this district initiative. And then that freed up some of those funds for the site to use in another manner. So that also helped with the school sites. We're looking at library media assistants. We were able to expand that focus to our high schools, the school psychologist, and then also reevaluating our custodians. So based on the formulaic, we used at least one, and then we just started progressing based on the need of our students on a ranking order for their percentage of low income unduplicated students. So a concentration grant, so I already described to you about those extra wants. Those are our student support technicians, bilingual assistants, our library media assistants, school psychologist, and then our custodians. What would that be when it looks like from me as a personal? Oh, that would be a boat, a jet ski, vacation home, timeshare, RV travel trailer, motorcycle, cruise. So those are those extras where if I had that extra money, this is what I would probably spend the money on. And those would be my extra wants. So what would be your extra wants that would be above and beyond the supplemental that you have already identified before? I'll give you a few minutes to, or at least a minute to think about that. All right. Well, so, oh, there we go. We got one. Yep, we have a timeshare. Yes, vacation. So I consider this as being that extra want of maybe going from camping to glamping would be a good analogy for that, because it's a little bit higher on that that level of extra. So yes, vacations to another country. And then chiropractor and massage, definitely love those. Yep. All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time for interacting with me on those activities. actually, before I ask this question move on to the equity multiplier, are there any questions on or clarifications that you would like on base and supplemental concentration for LCFF? No? Okay. Oh, and do they carry over? Yes. Oh, great question. Yes. As of 2 years ago, we had to start tracking our unspent carryover for supplemental concentration. Prior to that, any unspent supplemental concentration would be absorbed by the district. So that would go back into the general fund pot, and it would be reallocated for general fund activities. They now are saying that when you have those supplemental concentration funds earmarked, they are forevermore supplemental concentration. And so if you are allocating those funds out, and at the end of the year, it's identified that you have an unspent balance, those funds then need to be reallocated back into your LCAP to provide those supports to supplemental to those students who are generating those supplemental concentration dollars. So yes, carryover is very important. It is another avenue that business services and myself, in working with our projects, that we face on a daily basis. It's very important that we provide those supports and resources. And no, thank you for that clarification. We don't have to fund it on the same activities. We can reevaluate, and this is based on a business services and a district cabinet administration level decision as to how they want to redistribute those supplemental concentration unspent dollars. In the past, we have looked at what additional supports, like for instance, early childhood education received a bump up for supports in a project this year to provide and repair their playgrounds. And so we were able to augment those playgrounds by using our supplemental concentration dollars. And then looking at maybe a formula driven so that we can distribute and others throughout are able to receive an additional enhanced benefit. Now, for the last 2 years, we have provided unspent carryover to our projects. Some of those projects have, it has opened up the doors for staff to attend professional development. So if we have a project that typically would generate or provide salaries for positions, it's salaries only. It doesn't include if there's technology updates that are needed for them to do their job. So if they have a laptop that's, clunking around and they can't access it, or it takes forever to open up a document, that's not really allowing for them to do their job. So what we did is we allowed for departments to assess and provide updates to technology for their staff. They were also able to assess and provide professional development. So maybe there was a couple of conferences that a project with attendees were able to participate in. So thank you very much for that inquiry. Any other questions? Okay, so again, fantastic questions, love it. If there's a question that you want to ask, but you would prefer to do it in via email, feel free to email at LCAP or email lcap@stocktonusd.net. Now, the equity multiplier. This is big news. It's something that's extremely new. It's so new that we still do not know who our school sites are for this identification. So it is, and from this, and it's to provide some additional supports to our district, focusing on the non-stability rate. And so it was defined that the non-stability rate is the percentage of students who are either enrolled for less than 245 consecutive days between a period of time for a prior year or exited the school. So really focusing on the truancy, expulsion, and so forth. So this is going to be where I'm probably going to have a specialized training or session for clarification on what that looks like and what it means as we gain more information and we receive that, especially the designation or identification from CDE as to what our school sites, who will be receiving those funds. What I do know is that from trainings is that when our school sites are identified, it will force us to have a goal. So we may need to reassess this spring, looking at our LCAP. Also, those funds are for that particular school site. It's not something that we're able to redistribute throughout the district. It would be for that particular school site, and we have to show and demonstrate within our LCAP that particular school site's performance and the implementation of those activities. Again, more information will be forthcoming, and I will be able to present at a later date. So the equity multiplier is to supplement, not supplant. So this means that it needs to be above and beyond. It cannot replace LCFF. So meaning that if a school site is receiving LCFF, say the bilingual assistant, and that since that bilingual assistant is being funded through LCFF, and we're like, you know, we're just going to go ahead and flip that over to the equity multiplier and then free up some of those funds for LCFF, that would be considered to be supplanting. That's not allowed. It needs to be supplemental. So we have that bilingual assistant, and because of the data, maybe we have the equity multiplier funding a second or an additional bilingual assistant. That would be supplemental. It also is required to increase or improve our services to our students. And it is going to require our feedback from our educational partners. So as we move forward and we get additional information from the CDE as to who are identified by schools, we will be reaching out to the school site communities, but then also bringing it back from a district level LCAP perspective. Does anybody have any questions on the equity multiplier? All right, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. And of course, again, questions, lcap@stocktonusd.net. So this ends the captivating information that I was able to provide to you today. And I would like to invite you to our next LCAP engagement session. This will be our 4th session. Our focus topics will be on data analysis and our district areas of need. This will be scheduled for February 9th, and we will have 2 sessions. Again, a morning session from 9 a.m. to 11:30 via Zoom. So the same link that you're logging on right now, you'll be able to access. And then an afternoon or evening in-person session from 5:30 p.m. to 7 at Madison Elementary. So I would like to say thank you so much. And then again, a summary of our engagement schedule. This is available on our webpage. And I would like to say thank you for your participation and your questions. And I'm here for you if you have anything else. Thank you. Yes, Monique.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I just want to say that was really great, Tiffany. Just the way you compared the different things. You know, you've gone above and beyond. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You in the recording.